So hello everyone and welcome to this Green Gown Awards Exchange webinar. The title of this exchange webinar is Embedding ESD Across the Curriculum, and it will last approximately an hour. Thank you for registering, and thanks also to today's speakers. So we have Hannah Tweddle from University of Bristol, Chris Wilmore from the University of Bristol, Martin Wiles from the University of Bristol, and from Plymouth University we have Professor Stephen Sterling and Mike Woods. My name's Emma and I am the Member Events and Communities Officer here at the EAUC. As you know, the EAUC delivered the Sustainability Exchange, which was initially a funded project from HEFCE and led by Staffordshire University. So what are exchanges? Exchanges are free lunchtime webinars on a range of sustainability topics. Anyone can present them. Just get in touch with us at sustainabilityexchange@eauc.org.uk or myself. This particular exchange webinar is part of a series of Green Gown Award exchanges, which feature winning and highly commended institutions from the 2013 awards. More information about the Green Gown Awards can be found on the EAUC website and also the Sustainability Exchange. So there's just a little bit of housekeeping to go over. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me okay. I have muted you all, as I mentioned previously, just to avoid any background noise so that you can hear as clearly as possible during the webinar. If you have any issues hearing at any point during this webinar, please could you use the chat box in the bottom right hand side of your screen to send me a message saying so, and I'll try my best to sort it out. Hopefully most of you have working microphones. Don't worry too much if you don't, because you will still have the opportunity to ask any questions during and after the webinar. If you do have a question, you don't have a headphone, just pop your question in the chat box and I'll ask it aloud for you. You will all be encouraged to ask questions at different points during this webinar, and asking them aloud is recommended if you can. This webinar is being recorded so that you can view it again or share it with colleagues. It will be made available on the Sustainability Exchange with the presentation and any other resources later on today. After today's webinar, you'll be sent a short survey to gain your feedback. Please do take the time to complete this survey. It's only a couple of minutes long and it really does help us to improve our CPD and future training events. Okay, so that's all from me for now. Thank you, and over to our first speakers from the University of Bristol.
I'm going to do a little bit, then you'll hear from Hannah and then from Martin. So there's three of us doing a triple act, I guess. What we really wanted to talk about was some of the features of what we've been doing at Bristol. Not that we think that what we're doing is unique in any way, but we've learned a huge amount from just listening to other people and quite frankly copying. That's one of the nice things about the sustainability community. Key things of the Bristol approach. Firstly, it's very much student-led. We've had students going to every level in the university and delivering change, and that's something we think is essential to what we're trying to do. Putting students in the driving seat on the simple basis if we don't let them experience being change agents as students in a world being sort of control, then we can't expect them to be change agents afterwards. It's very much partnership focused between the university and the student union, and between different parts of the university. And we're very much committed to using existing systems and processes, simply because we actually think that if we set up duplicate systems and processes, we're allowing people to think it's somebody else's issue, whereas if we work through existing systems and processes, we are actually giving the people who run those systems and processes ownership. And finally, we're really committed to open access resources. Everything we do could be found on our website, ESD at Bristol. We work within the UNESCO definition. We picked that definition are a tricky one for us, I guess. We work within the UNESCO definition. It's not good for engineers. The UNESCO definition does not resonate with engineers, but we reckon our engineers were already on a reasonable page on these issues. And we wanted the UNESCO definition because it works really well with, for example, art faculty issues. The other thing on the left of this slide, the blue and green thing, is a piece of work that the students themselves did, which sets up our approach to ESD and we use it a lot when we're visiting schools and others to talk through issues, and very much focuses on the skills and values of sustainability as much as on the content. And that's, again, part of our approach. I'll deal with this very quickly. You might want to come back and question me. 4 key things. First of all, is the things that's about language. The problem we all find is different disciplines have different language for getting into sustainability, and students have different language. Second thing, we're very much focused on showing people they're already doing it. This is not something scary and new and, oh my gosh, not another thing you've got to do, but they're already engaged. Either in their personal lives, people are doing amazing things in the voluntary sector in their personal lives and just not bring it into work. And the message is bring it into work. Or they're doing it in their research and not bring it into their teaching. Or they say, oh, in my discipline, we don't do that. So we're showing them eminent graduates that they've taught who are embedding sustainability in their work as a clue. And they're skipping around time and tools. A key stuff we all encounter is, I haven't got the time, I don't know what to do. Partly about giving people permission, but partly by giving the time, and that's where student interns come in. They're immensely good at helping students, helping staff develop ideas and materials. A couple of quick final slides from you and then I'll hand on. We find a lot of our disciplines are like bobsleigh riders. They're doing something about sustainability within their discipline. So I'm a lawyer, and the top left bobsleigh here is social justice. And we do loads of stuff about social justice. Really, really good track about social justice. What we find a lot of our disciplines forget to say, and that's part of a much bigger agenda. And so part of our role, we find, is getting people, whilst they're bobsleighing, to think about, to look outside and to see what else is going on. And then finally, here's just one example of the sorts of things that we're doing. We find, this is an example we use, it's just a simple Wordle, but we find using language that a department is already using is a really good tool for getting a conversation going and pulling people from their comfort zone really out into something a bit newer. Not finally, I've just been told I'm going to do the next slide. There's a lot of gesticulating going on here. Finally, this one. I don't think I should be doing this next slide because it's really something that Hannah developed. Our students, as part of Student Green Fund work, did a skills mapping exercise of what they wanted out of university. And interestingly, it didn't include the word shed loads of knowledge. It included a whole load of skills. And for me, the 2 key ones were about future thinking and adaptive capacity. Adaptive capacity. The ability to live with uncertainty, to handle risk, to look at the evidence and then act on it. If our students graduate with that skill, then they'll handle sustainability challenges, they'll be ready to change with the needs of the planet. If we don't skill them to have adaptive capacity, then they're going to be change resistors. And for us, that's very much key to what we're trying to do. Rethink our education to put that idea of adaptive capacity at the beginning of it. That said, we are not about prescribing. We are not trying in what we're doing at Bristol to require students to come out with a particular approach to their lives and the planet. We see it very much about enabling students to work out their own personal reconciliations. And we're willing to trust them, but actually if we give them the evidence and the goodness skills, they'll come to conclusions that we're comfortable with.
Hello, this is Hannah here now. This diagram explains how that students don't just learn in the formal curriculum in the classroom, but also learning in the informal curriculum and the subliminal curriculum. So informal in terms of volunteering, the students' union, subliminal in terms of the environment that they're studying in, and from the research that the university conducts. And this is all encompassed in the community of Bristol. So why student-led? There is a student for sustainability. The HEA-NUS survey shows that more than 8 in 10 students actively want sustainability incorporated, and that 2/3 want sustainability covered by their universities. Our survey that we've just completed found 96% of students wanted sustainability either embedded or standalone within the curriculum. And there's a power of numbers as well. 10% of students, 10% of Bristol's population are students, and there's a real power behind empowering all those students. Students can develop skills as change agents and improve their employability and become active citizens. And also students are innovative. they have new ideas and come from different angles and aren't afraid to try out new things. And so, as I said, we want to empower students to be the change. And so students have their norms, and we want their norms to be brought out of the centre and into their cultural norms and influence their habits and their practices.
And their habitats.
Yeah. And so I work for EAUC Get Green, which is a student green fund sponsored programme working for the Students' Union. And we're working within the Learn, Act, Engage and Create. So in terms of learning, we work with students who want to challenge their lecturers and their courses to really think about sustainability. And we have one student working with an academic over the next year to really try and improve the curriculum and bring more sustainability aspects into it. We also encourage students to act through activities such as Kiss Me I'm Green, which is a student success campaign which reduced energy in increased recycling in the halls this year. We have a 20 steps campaign that gets students to take 20 steps to become more environmentally aware and act more in a more environmentally sustainable manner. We're also currently conducting Big Give, which has so far collected 2,895 bags of stuff from students that will be going to charity shops and to other community organisations, and that's more than doubled on last year's Big Give. Students can be engaged in the project in a number of ways, so they can be on the core team really leading it, and they can volunteer ad hoc, or they can be on the mailing list so we're still reaching students and providing information. And finally, Create. The project is student-led, so we support students in that particular core team to really do what they want to do, and also we'll be providing funding for them to do their own small projects. And this is one example of a sustainability-related activity that started off in the formal curriculum. It was a farmers market that was an 8-week student-selected unit in global environmental and human health. And they set up a farmers market on campus that promoted health and wellbeing and reduced food miles. This was taken up by the Students' Union, and they continue to run it. It was used by staff and students and the community, and then became embedded in the university through the department. So what have students done? Quite a lot, and you can see from this slide. Student interns have created a database that's open access that anyone can use with different resources aimed at subjects and training videos and lots of information. Interns conducted a baseline monitoring activity where they went through every single unit in the unit and program catalogue, so all taught units, and measured what ESD was in those units, and then went into different committees and meetings and engaged faculty using that data to really push them and engage them and ask them what they were doing. I run through these, but I realise time's going on, so you can see all the kind of stuff we've done, including embedding in the quality assurance process through the annual programme review, where reports were produced for the committees that went into there and engaged through that manner. Then in the informal curriculum, it's probably easier to say what haven't students done. There's all sorts of stuff going on here. A third of all our students are engaged through the Bristol Hub organisation. EAUC Get Green's engaged 800 students this year. We're running a project with intern brokers where community partners identify a research need, and that is then matched up to a dissertation project. Hey, I'll pass to Martin.
Right, so hello, it's Martin here, and hello everybody. I should say, you've already seen there that we have this 5-ring model, and that's very much about getting our students to have an opportunity really to learn about sustainability and through ESD. All of those parts are really key for us. So this isn't just about, I quite like to emphasise this quite a lot, it isn't just about shoving 10 things about climate change onto any particular course. So it's very much a holistic approach with lots of different opportunities for students to learn about these, especially in a very practical way, because we know that there are lots of courses that don't have ESD in. So we're very keen for them to have other ways and means of how they can learn about ESD. This kind of links into our network, the slide here about network leadership. So you can see in the circle in the corner, there's a whole range of different communities, and what we're trying to do is pull those together and work with them in a kind of very collaborative way. So what we've generally done here is haven't sort of set up strong committees. We have a lot of committee structure within the organisation, like most universities do, and we use that to deliver certain parts of it. So we do have things like an ESD strategy. But that hasn't been our general focus, really. So we've tried not to create an ESD committee or anything like that. We've just used the existing infrastructure, but we've then generated a wider sort of community. So we have a wider network that we've developed. We've got more students engaged around this. And that's also then led on to a number of other things. So we've tried to create this culture of experimentation. So we have a Green Apple scheme, which sort of seed funds some innovative thoughts about how you can include sustainability within your curriculum area, and that could be a whole range of different things that are going on. So there's a whole range of different things there. It's a very flexible approach, so because of that, we haven't kind of set up rigid structures for that. So we've also opened everything up. So we have an open, our wiki is open to everybody, not just within the organisation, but outside of the organisation. And we've created that in a very open way, so lots of people can interact with that and see what's going on and see what other people are going on in different disciplines. So trying to build those links as well. So and I think that one thing right at the bottom on the green and this sort of counterbalance of the Don't Write Act. I mean, that was one of the things we do. We've tended to do quite a lot of things, not necessarily based on anything more than a kind of gut feeling, and we've tried them out, see how they work. If they've worked, we've developed them and nuanced them. If they haven't, then so very much sort of doing rather than saying. So there's a whole range of issues here as well on the red side, which is about some of the problems that you do find with this kind of more open approach. And in some respects, it can be a little bit more nebulous for people to understand that. So not being able to necessarily give people lots of documentation that says, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going. We have quite a bit of that, but it is a bit more nebulous. So is there anything else I would speak to that? Just now, that covers that quite well. So the final thing here, the last few slides, gatekeepers. We, as you can see, there's a student union, there's academic, there's estate. So we're all trying to work together, but what we're not trying to do is impose a sort of rigid structure on people. So this is very much about us allowing academics and students to be creative with what they're doing. So and enabling them. So we spent a lot of time talking to them, seeing how we can nuance things for them, building those contacts with other departments. So this is very much our approach. So we find students, we've got a section in there which is saying that intrinsically holistic in their view, and that's very key for us, is to try and pull out that kind of silo work and try to move outside of those silos. Academic disciplines quite often are doing exactly that, trying to force things into a discipline. So there is a certain amount of thought for us.
What you're saying is us academics are the problem.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to say that, but so we are trying to. It's a certain amount of new learning and new teaching around, especially around pedagogy. So there's some interesting things there, and there's some challenges as well about how we frame this problem. We talked a bit about language and that being an issue for us, and how we get that across. So it is trying to get that vision across to people, and then giving them to understand that myriad of different approaches. So finally, where do we go in the future? How do we create that? There's a whole a list of bullet points there of things that we've touched on already. So the unteaching ourselves, the sharing of resources, more of that kind of work, celebrating our good practice and getting that out there and encouraging other people to experiment a little bit there. I think there's a really interesting, are you still, I hope we're still on that. Another interesting challenge that we had from one of our students who said, you know, are our students more creative at the end of year one than they were at the start of it? Which I think is a really interesting a point to make, that with a lot of this, we are asking people to think, it's a horrible thing to say, think outside the box, think differently than they have been doing within their academic discipline. So that kind of illustrates that very well. So so finally, that kind of, this slide really just sums up what we're trying to do. So there's that kind of celebration, of good practice that's out there, making what we're trying to do fun, so that our Green Apple work is very much about that, trying to do innovative things, but also very strongly about giving ownership both to our academics and to our students in moving this forward. So I think, yeah, so then there's just our various different feeds and websites and stuff. And as I said, I think Hannah mentioned it, we have a wiki which has a huge amount. So if you Google ESD at Bristol, you can see all our resources there. So I think that's us.
Back to you.
Oh, yes, I think that's back over to you now, Emma. So thank you.
Okay, so I think it's my turn. This is Stephen from University of Plymouth. Thanks to Bristol for a really inspiring and really interesting presentation. Plymouth have a rather different approach, but I think a similar ethos behind it, if you like. So I'm Head of Education for Sustainable Development here at the university, and I've been here for some 9 years. And I'm going to talk briefly about the approach we've taken to sustainability as a kind of overall introduction before handing over to Mike Woods, who's going to talk about how it pans out in a particular program around design education. So here at Plymouth, we're known for taking a whole institutional approach, and this is stemmed largely from the work of the original Centre for Sustainable Futures, which was funded by HEFCE from 2005 to 2010. And rather than have a student-focused approach, although clearly students are important, historically we've taken a kind of a middle-out approach through the work of the CSF. So just very quickly, to give context, Plymouth is quite a large university here in the southwest, and sustainability is one of 4 key ambitions in our 2020 corporate plan. When CSF was set up, we set ourselves a pretty ambitious goal from the start, as you can see on the slide there, which years later we think we've had some success in implementing, and we won the Green Gown for Whole Institutional Change in 2011 as some result of that. Although we're most aware the task is never finished. So our approach has been holistic, like Bristol, and to do that we bring together 3 parts of the university's work, through teaching and learning, through operations including estates, and research. And our original informing model is what we call the 4C model, where we looked at not just these 3 areas of curriculum, campus and culture, but the overlaps between them, and the important but intangible dimension of the university's culture, because we see the business of embedding sustainability in the curriculum as a learning challenge which involves the whole university community. What do we mean by sustainability education? Well, a bit like Bristol, we're not prescriptive about this. This is a one descriptor which I came up with a year or 2 ago, which sort of lays down the challenge, if you like, but allows people to interpret that in a way which is meaningful to them. What we're sure about is that it's not just a matter of tweaking the curriculum, but if you look at it holistically, then you can recognize that ESD can, if you like, color all areas of the university's work. And to that extent, we were quite pleased to take up the EAUC's LIFE program, because it really set out this this whole institutional approach in a systematic way. We're also clear that sustainability requires an active and engaged pedagogy and way of looking at education. So to support this, we've developed a network of engaged academics and students and work with them on these areas. And for example, we have a regular innovative pedagogy workshop presented by both academics here and external speakers, which is very popular. But like Bristol, we build on what people are already doing and trying to extend that. And we do that through 9 project areas supporting change. And if you look at the item 1 before last, whole institutional change, so we've done a cross-institutional review of curricula and found that some 50% of programs have a sustainability element right up to specialist programs. So that's something we build on. These are possible curriculum responses that academics might take up. So we've been working on these in different ways for years, but right now the whole university is engaged in a change program, a curriculum reform program which will allow a number of interdisciplinary modules around sustainability to be offered to first-year undergraduates. And we've piloted 2 of these so far, called the Global Challenge Program and Self-Leadership for Sustainability, which has proved popular amongst students. We've also worked with schools, whole schools, on sustainability in their curriculum. So, for example, we did a lot of work with the Plymouth Business School, who then came up with this set of aims, which helps guide their teaching and learning policy and practice. And because of the Plymouth corporate strategy, all schools, in fact, now required to integrate ESD into their business plans. Outside formal education, we've got a lot of activities and initiatives in place. There's Green Week, volunteering, all sorts of things happening. We have quite an innovative Future Leaders program based on a students as partners ethos, which encourages students to input their ideas on sustainability initiatives and do peer-to-peer work and feedback ideas to staff on teaching and learning. We started a physics garden a few years ago, which gave rise to a very interesting staff-student initiative called Plymouth Growing Futures, which has helped revitalise not just our campus, but forged links with our community, wider community, and the city. So it's just one or 2 pics here of students working on that program. Another element of the strategy, if you like, overall, is the work we've done for some years on sustainability education research, such as the student view of the campus in terms of its use, and this energy literacy research. And then that internal research helps inform our teaching and learning approaches. Policy is important, so this sustainability university strategy, I should say, is a subset of the overall corporate strategy, and that's one line which actually shows our intention in terms of sustainability in the curriculum, and that then cascades down to the teaching and learning and student experience strategy. So that informs teaching and learning across the university and is something that we can build on. So coming to the end quickly now, these are a few of the products available from our work over recent years. The first book is on looking at different disciplinary approaches to sustainability. The second one is available from the HEA, which is an introduction to ESD across a curriculum, which is downloadable from the HEA, which we wrote. And the last one, the Sustainable University, is now is looking at the experience of 10 different UK universities grappling with this whole field and taking it forward. And that's just out in paperback, and if I'm allowed to say it, this is just about to be made available for an EAUC discount. Last slide. Yes, I came across this billboard a year or 2 ago, and we have an equivalent billboard now which bounds the outside of the west side of the university, which is great because it's a public declaration. It's a reminder to staff and students, and it also says something to the wider community about our identity and outlook. So there's a website there which gives you more detail of what's happening at the university, and now I'm going to hand over to Mike Woods.
Okay, so I'm Mike Woods from 3D Design, one of the programs that has benefited from the approach that Stephen's been talking about. And I'd like to share some snapshots of some of the things we've been up to, some of the outcomes and emerging practice that is the result of the approach we take at Plymouth. So I've been working on these projects with Dr. Pete Davis, my colleague, and this is a presentation we've been putting together recently. So the first few slides, forgive me if I read from them, there's quite a bit of words, but it's important for us to describe a little bit about what is design, what's the point of design, and almost, I guess, our manifesto of where we think design is going. So this is about the value of design and thinking particularly about repurposing and upcycling and themes like that. But there are many good designers, but the demands of the 21st century require more than traditional designers can provide. We don't need design to be about not doing, but to make the doing even better, more relevant, even more powerful. Design is the practice of intentional creation to enhance the world. It's a field of doing and making, creating great products and services that fit human needs, that delight and inform. Design is exciting because it calls upon the arts and humanities, the social, physical and biological sciences, engineering and business. When this mix is balanced with what we call design thinking, we have a focus on finding the correct problem before rushing to a solution. We believe that this balance is key to design skills and will be a key success factor for a new generation of creative leaders in technology, business, education and design. So I guess what we're talking about is a very collaborative approach and a transdisciplinary approach. But design, like many things, is uncertain at the moment. The future is uncertain. The traditional design fields tend to create artifacts, but new changes, societal changes, cultural values, technological opportunities require new skills. So it seems reasonable to assume we must create enduring curricula for design education that merge science, technology, art and business with a sustainable and conscious view to creating new value and new values for the future. That's our position, that's where we're coming from. This recognition that the world of design is changing and that the world of design education is changing, and we need to be much more collaborative, and we need to enable our students to approach the world with a fresh view. I'll give you some examples now, some of the things we've been working on to evidence maybe what I'm talking about, what underpins this. The first one here is from a British Council-funded workshop in China. A couple of years ago, a group of our students and staff from our undergraduate design program and our postgraduate design program collaborated together at a 2-week workshop in China, hosted by a university in China, and other UK universities were there as well. The challenge was to think about upcycling and address the enormous amount of waste that's generated by consumption, and China as the workshop of the world at the moment. When the students and staff arrived, they were confronted by something like 3 aircraft hangars full of industrial waste, the byproducts and the waste products of the consumption that we all enjoy. And the challenge was to think about this and try to create products or opportunities that might enable us to question the value of that waste. Is it just stuff? Is it stuff that we can't do anything about, or is it something that maybe there are hidden values or hidden opportunities within this pile of industrial detritus? So the example here shows a used oil drum, some bits of old pallets, packing crates, and redundant electrical components, but transformed into Chinese chess. Same as our chess, but Chinese chess. And it's a project that invites people to engage. It invites people to sit together, to think about things and to explore what's in front of them. Your first impression is perhaps that this isn't waste. Maybe this is a useful object. And I guess that's the point. We're trying to change perceptions. Another view from a very different perspective, I guess, is something quite collaborative we've been doing, working with the Faculty of Health, and in particular Students from 3D design, students and staff from 3D design and Faculty of Arts working with the Faculty of Health and collaborating to think about challenges posed by consumption and the disposable nature of many of the consumables used in healthcare provision and the impact that has on healthcare curriculum in terms of basic things like how do people open packs with I don't know, catheters or syringes, gloves, all the things that are used daily in healthcare environments. And simple acts of how do you open a pack in an aseptic environment, how do you control that, what happens to the waste, what waste stream does it go into. Those are the sort of obvious problems, but there are knock-on problems in terms of how do you train people to open packs correctly so that the aseptic environment can be maintained. What happens if these things don't get opened correctly? What impact does that have on people's lives working in healthcare environments? And obviously, what impact does that then have on the care that's delivered and received? So this is a sort of holistic way of thinking about the operator of healthcare, those delivering it, those receiving it, those funding it, and the waste streams that are generated as a result of it. So this is, as a project, not so much about the what, but it's about the how, and using what we call design thinking and classic design thinking processes like user research, user observation, user interview to stimulate the right ideas and get to better solutions. Another quick example from Dutch Design Week this time, Dutch Design Week in October this year. We sent a team of students to work over in Eindhoven, and there's a lot of great stuff happening in Holland at the moment in terms of sustainable thinking and sustainable practice, particularly in the design industry there. So this seemed like a good place for our students to go and immerse themselves in some of the latest approaches and ways of working. But we took a material with us, a material called crumb rubber, which is the last product that, or the last constituent that happens to a car tire in its journey when it's been disposed of. It's reduced down, ground down to a crumb material, and there's not an awful lot you can do with that crumb material. It has some uses, but we were trying to explore what it might have as a potential material, and the best way we felt to illustrate that potential was to demonstrate outcomes, in this case as a stool that you can see on the right. But again, it was the process of working and the process of thinking that was exciting, and you can see a snapshot of one of our students featured on the Dutch Design Week website at the time. Our stand within the design festival was not just a static stand of objects we had created. It was about the process of creation. So this stool that you see on the right didn't exist before we went, and over the course of the days that the design festival was on, the stool emerged, and there's a team of the guys who went out there with large hammers, microwave ovens, and raw crumb rubber material, and a washing line of experiments. And it was all about taking things, playing with them, exploring them. And at the end of it, there were solutions, but there was also a lot of exploration. Maybe exploration is perhaps the most exciting part of this. Another example, we are trying to challenge the design industry. We're producing, educating, I guess, the next generation of designers. And so we took a team of our third-year product design undergraduates to London to discuss with the Chartered Society of Designers, the body that represents the design industry, the professional body. And we hosted an evening at the Chartered Society of Designers to have discussions with CSD representatives, but also leading figures from the design industry, to talk about some of the work that students are doing right now. And we were particularly interested in looking at new ecologies and new economies that might need to exist within the design industry. And these are things that if you look very hard, you can start to see emerging within the non-academic world, but they're things that tend to thrive more naturally within academia because we have different constraints perhaps on how we work. But so one of our students was looking at future of in vitro meat and what the format and formulation and the kind of consumable experience of in vitro meat might be. Potentially, we could all be eating Rhino or Golden Eagle or challenging taboos, the potential of in vitro meat from a sustainability perspective is quite interesting, but it's a very unknown format at the moment, and so design is quite a powerful tool to visualize what these future experiences might be about. The last snapshot to share with you this morning is from one of our postgraduate students who graduated a couple of years ago and has been developing a product that he calls solid wool. I say a product, it's actually a material, a composite material using wool fibers, fleece from sheep, as a biocomposite, mixed with resin to create a rigid, robust, moldable material. The exemplar here is a chair, a piece of furniture, arguably quite an elegant piece of furniture, modern furniture. But Justin Floyd, whose product this is much more interested in, yes, I can create a product, I can create a piece of furniture, look, it's beautiful, but actually, where do our materials come from? And how do we process them? What's the value of the production process? What's involved in that production process? So he's designing the production process, designing the material, and has had quite a lot of success recently at the Milan Furniture Fair, which, for anybody who knows about the design world, is the leading showcase of new products and new furniture every year. And as a result of work he was showing at the Milan Furniture Fair, he's now got contracts from Heels and Habitat in London, plus others. But as I say, the real challenge for him is actually having to promote this as a material. So the chair is a slight sideshow in a way, but if he can actually get this material out and into production and adopted by manufacturers, it can have a far greater impact. So that's all from me. That's a very quick overview of some quite diverse projects, I think, coming out of 3D design, but all exploring the future of where we think design might go.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, everyone, today. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to unmute all of today's speakers, and it's now, participants, it's now your turn to turn the tables around and ask today's speakers any questions that you might have. So if you'd just like to take a few moments, and you can either write them in the chat box, but preferably you'd like to ask them aloud. And if you would like to do that, just let me know in the chat box and I can unmute you. So any questions, and I'm sure our speakers will be more than happy to answer them for you. Okay, everyone seems to be a little bit quiet today. We've actually got a question from our speakers at University of Bristol. So, oh, you're not unmuted actually, I'll unmute you now.
It's a bit cheeky really, using it to ask a question. Stephen, now that you haven't got the big external funding, I'm interested in how you're funding your ongoing work.
So I didn't quite catch that.
How are you paying for it? It's a short summary of a slightly longer question about the ongoing central support to curriculum and student change.
Yeah. Well, yeah, good question, of course. You know, I was just looking at your great slides and feeling somewhat envious about your access to the Student Green Fund, which he didn't manage to get. But meantime, CSF comes under the Teaching Learning Group, which used to be the Teaching Learning Directorate before the restructuring. So that's paid for from the universities. The top slicing the faculties really, and what they get for that is support on teaching and learning across the board, not just sustainability. So that's how it's paid for, and then so we get a fairly modest budget to use for supporting our work. So, for example, at the moment we have a number of curriculum development awards running, again with fairly modest sums that people have applied for, and then we've got about 6 different quite interesting projects going around implementing sustainability in one way or another across various schools. So that's that's one way we spend the limited funds we have. In terms of staff, we're currently at 3 full-time staff plus some of the capacity of our education development colleagues.
Thanks.
Lovely. We've had a couple of questions come in through the chat box now. So Serena is wondering, Stephen, whether you can tell her more about the Plymouth Energy Literacy Survey. I don't know whether that is something you could quickly summarise now, and then maybe I can exchange your email addresses and you can answer the question in more detail there. But if you could just summarise it now, that would be great. So there's a little bit more information.
Yes, well, to put it in context, when we first started this work, we did a whole university survey both on staff attitudes and student attitudes, and we hadn't really done that for some time. So rather doing the whole survey around sustainability as a whole, we thought we'd look at energy literacy because I mentioned this sort of integrative approach we're trying to take, and that fits in, the energy literacy research fits in with our attempts to take forward the carbon management agenda, of course. So we've got fairly ambitious carbon targets. So by doing the energy literacy research, we thought we'd develop a baseline by which we could, then influence our teaching and learning and ideas outside the classroom. But so we had about 1,000 responses across all faculties and schools at the university, and that's now been written up, and we're looking for, at the moment, trying to get publication of 2 particular papers. There were 40 questions on energy, knowledge, attitudes and behaviours, and now that instrument has been shared with, I think it's 3 other universities, including one overseas. So at some stage we'll have comparative data to look at. So that's quite exciting.
The comparative data is there because this year I think 5 UK universities did it. We did it as well. I have to say the data has been really, really helpful to us, and it was really easily done. Because Plymouth used SurveyMonkey, it's really easy to do it and to join in, and it's given us a really rich data set about which messages students are receiving and which messages they're not hearing, and in particular a huge amount about just how distorting some of the school messages are that students arrive with. So they think they'll save the planet by switching off lights, for example.
Yeah, sure, that's right. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Again, if anyone has any questions, this is your chance to ask them. Stephen, we do have another question for you, if you don't mind. This question coming here says, what are the biggest challenges you've come across taking the whole institutional approach?
I think there's nothing unusual here, really. I guess part of the challenge is how you change the culture of the university as a whole when you've got a very small resource, and the university is quite large, with 3,000 staff and 30,000 students. So how do you best use your resources to the best effect? Now, in some ways, we've been quite lucky because, well, for a start, because we managed to get the HESKI funding for 5 years, which made a big difference to our ability to take this agenda forward. So that was a massive plus. We've also been quite lucky, I think, in having a lot of staff here who are quite switched on to this agenda. And I think because of the work we've done over quite a long period now of 9 years, there's some evidence we've attracted both staff and students because of the reputation we've managed to develop. So, but it's been a long process. I would say that senior management are very supportive now, but even that's taken quite a long time for that to really take place, to get that support. And I think it's just been a matter of time to address that issue. So it has been quite difficult in some respects, but I think that there's always been a head of steam here, and sufficient numbers of students and staff to really push it all the way through these 9 years. And in a way, the more successes you have, the more it becomes part of mainstream way of doing things rather than seen as a marginal activity.
Lovely, thank you. I don't appear to have any other questions sent to me here, unless any of our speakers had any sent directly to them. I think we will hang on just a couple more minutes in case anyone does think of anything, but it does appear to be a little bit quiet. I'm sure our speakers will be more than willing to answer any questions that you might have later on today or even early next week, because I know it happens to myself as well, that sometimes you think of something a little bit later. If that does happen, the best way is to contact myself. You probably have my email address already, or if not, it's there on the screen, and I'll be sending everyone an email later with the recorded webinar, a link to it, and also the presentation will be up online as well. So if at that point anyone does have any questions, feel free to send them across to me, and then I'll act as messenger. But I think we'll may as well call that a day. Thank you again, unless anyone wants to ask anything right now or say anything, but I think that's it. That was a great webinar. Thank you, guys. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a Green Gown Award webinar, and if you would like to find out any information about the Green Gown Awards, how to enter yourselves, and the first round of applications has shut now, but you can have a whole year to prepare. Then all the information is on the EAUC website and the Sustainability Exchange. So once again, thank you to all of our speakers from the University of Bristol and Plymouth University, and I'll see everybody hopefully on the next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks.